Sometimes I feel like I want to fly without no wings.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sober Cold Bear podcast. My name is Matt Barkoff. I am the Sober Cold Bear, and we're so happy that you are here. Joining me today is Kathleen Ferguson, and she is currently in San Diego, California. Hello, Kathleen.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Obviously, we've just met. But we obviously have a lot of degrees of connection and things like that. Just to let everybody know, this is a podcast that covers a lot of topics. We cover obviously sobriety and recovery. We cover mental health. We cover wellness, which is going to be a big topic for today. And we cover a lot of other topics, entrepreneurship and business. And I think why I asked Kathleen to be a part of this podcast is all the characteristics of what she brings, really represents in spirit kind of what the Sober Cold Bear podcast is all about. Mental health, entrepreneurship, business, wellness, health, so many different topics. Kathleen, before we get to your story, I'm just going to read a quick little, blurb on you. And, Kathleen is a distinguished USC graduate, seasoned leader, boasts an impressive 14-year track record in business development and in partnership initiatives across the health, fitness, and wellness landscape. She is most notably known to renowned brands such as Idea Health and Fitness Association, Oxygen Magazine, and Athletech News. Coach 360, which is her brand, is in the business of powering health, fitness, and wellness coaching. It is Coach 360 is the premier career development and education platform providing health, fitness, and wellness coaches with management tools as well as cutting-edge content and the latest in industry trends. Connected to this is also the Coach 360 marketplace, which I guess is the industry leader in terms of health and fitness premier staffing and career growth platforms. So I definitely want to dive into that. And finally, your mission is to revolutionize wellness for consumers worldwide by enhancing education and providing business tools for the underserved health, fitness, and wellness coach community. Thank you again for coming here and welcome.
Thank you so much. Wow, that's quite the introduction. I appreciate that.
So let's kind of start with your story. How did you do this? How did you start it? Tell us everything as you can.
Yeah, so I guess in order to tell you where I'm at right now, I got to tell you where I came from. And how I got into the industry means a lot to me. So let's go back there. I was married at a very young age, and unfortunately, my first husband became very ill, and he developed cancer, and he passed away about 6 months after we got married. And I was working at the time, for my corporate day job. I was working in radio sales and ended up just feeling completely devoid of purpose in my life. And I was going down a really dark path in terms of like how I was grieving and how I was, dealing with the trauma and all the emotions. And kind of was looking at this fork in the road. I like to call it. We go down this path of, complete destruction where we hurt ourselves and others, or we go down a path where we can, turn that pain into purpose and make an impact on the lives of others and those that we touch. And that's the path I chose.
First of all, I'm really sorry that you had to go through that. That's obviously a tough thing. Loss is a huge, obviously it's a part of life, but it's also something that
Sure.
you never necessarily know how you're going to deal with it until you get into it. I actually talk about kind of the fork in the road analogy all the time in sobriety, because for years I would be saying, yeah, I can just kind of go back to my old ways and I can drink like a normal person, and obviously that never happened. But I actually now have a lot of folks that I'm very close to that we're at that stop sign, at that fork in the road. If they continue to go right, they would die because
Yep.
they would just drink themselves to death, or they would have liver failure, or, or get cancer or diabetes, or, any of that stuff. Or you turn left and you take a different path and you get well and you work on yourself and your ego and your center. And that's what I chose to do. And it sounds like you did the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar in that sense. I walked back into that day job, and I knew, like, if I stayed there, I was going to keep going down that wrong fork in the road. And I walked out that night and I said, I'm going to become a personal trainer. I don't know, how I'm going to build a business out of it or what I'm going to do, but I knew that that was going to be a way that I could help people and kind of channel that grief. And in becoming a personal trainer, it became kind of a beacon of hope for me. And it was really the light in my life to be able to go in and help people who are struggling with their fitness or their health. And there were just so many people that I was able to help in that sense. And um, long story short, as a personal trainer, I discovered quickly, while it was really fulfilling, it was extremely difficult to understand the business side of it. I
Hmm.
started on the gym floor. I got a job in a club, and immediately he was like, go sell personal training packages. Okay, well, how do I do that? How do I market myself as a personal trainer? How do I approach people like when they're working out? There's not a lot of training that goes into that when you become a certified professional.
Right.
So it was a struggle. And, I even, kind of went off on my own and did my own personal training business. And, that was extremely difficult as well. Ended up meeting the first media company that I worked with, Peter and Kathy Davis, the original founders of Idea Health and Fitness Association. Incredible people. They were really the OGs, in fitness certification. They were the ones that launched the initial certification that we now know as ACE, American Council on Exercise. And they said, can you sell media? And I was like, heck yeah, let's go. And I got to really marry what I love to do, right? Which was, health and fitness, personal training, coaching others, and also, my background in sales. Just ended up loving the job because what I discovered was that, I really love to connect with people. And that was why I was so drawn to this industry, is that connecting with
Right.
people is one of my highest values in life, is connection. So got to go to all the shows, ran the media sponsorship business for Idea for about 10 years, leading a sales team there. Ended up, going through 2 acquisitions, took on Oxygen Magazine and Yoga Journal, a couple different direct-to-consumer brands. During those acquisitions, COVID hit, just like everybody else. My life was sent into upheaval, and realized quickly I had one child going into kindergarten and 2 children that also needed elementary school Zoom homeschool training. So I
Yeah.
said, all
Brutal.
right, yeah, I was like, you know what, I think this is my a push from above to say maybe it's time to go off on your own, and I could do it. Did that. I started consulting for startups in the industry. Most recently, I was, brought on early days at Athletech News to ramp up their sponsorship media, and loved working with them, and being able to kind of help brands kind of get to the forefront of industry news. However, January 2024 rolled around, and I felt this pull back to my roots, which is personal training. And I'd gone through some life coaching at the time because I felt like stuck in my life and in my career, and kind of had some fears that I needed to overcome with my own, and realized, all right, I think I can do this. I'll be an entrepreneur. And wanted to set out to really solve some major issues in the industry, which were personal trainers are churning out 80% within 2 years' time, and as a direct
Hmm.
result of that, clubs and studios can't keep coaches and trainers on their staff. They're at 100% average turnover rate. That's like the dirty little secret. No, none of the owners and operators really want to talk about, but that's the truth. There's a few outliers that keep staff on much longer, but on average, like, coaches are leaving the industry rapidly. I set out to solve that by creating this media platform that supports the business of coaching, and also helps to connect them to careers. So I help the clubs and studios post jobs, and I help the coaches find the jobs and figure out how to become this comprehensive solution, for their client base. So that's my story.
No,
And
it's great.
left out a lot of things, but
Did you so that's how Coach 360 was born,
yeah,
right? It was
yeah.
basically around that's basically the premise behind it. It's a destination for health and wellness businesses to be able to retain employees, provide training to employees, and then also to be able to use your marketplace resource as a place to find, employees to hire in areas of expertise around health and fitness. Is that the right kind of way to describe it?
Absolutely. Yes. Really a way to uplift these health and fitness professionals because, from my standpoint, these are the individuals who are at the front lines of chronic disease,
Mm-hmm.
preventable chronic disease, and the obesity epidemic that we're experiencing here and really globally.
And do you how do you connect with businesses? I've for years I actually did Orange Theory. I'm no longer doing Orange Theory. I actually I have a gym a couple blocks from where I live. I have a trainer that I work out with. I have kind of like kind of a strength training regimen that I do 4 or 5 days a week, along with cardio like Peloton or what have you.
Yeah.
So how did you start connecting, with health and wellness businesses to kind of help them? Did you first offer it as like a free service with content? Like, how did you kind of get started? How did you ramp up?
Yeah, so just, having been in the industry for 17 years, I had developed a lot of relationships and I simply started with a newsletter. May 1st, 2024, I sent out our first newsletter and I socialized it on my own personal LinkedIn platform, as well as, the new social media channels I created for Coach 360.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say we started at just under, kind of 10,000 subscribers at the time. And now
Wow.
we're at just over 30,000 subscribers in about a year. So, I think the growth of Coach 360 has been, it has been entirely organic. We have partnered with certifying bodies, certifying organizations such as ACE is one of our partners. They're also, kind of sharing out the content. We've had a lot of incredible coaches that we've featured on our platform that have shared out the content. So, just people started, subscribing to the newsletter, and clubs and studios were hearing about what we were doing. I I do a lot of outreach myself, personal outreach. I go to a lot
Sure.
of conferences to make connections and, really spread the word about what we're doing. But yeah, up until, hopefully soon, we're going to be, looking at, raising our first round so that we can start to dive into some of these different pockets that we haven't reached. Because again, up until now, we've been completely organic in growth.
Got it. And is the newsletter a subscription based paid newsletter that you provide, or is it a free newsletter, a free resource to organizations and individuals?
The newsletter is entirely free. In fact, everything that we provide on the coach side is entirely free. They don't have to pay to search for jobs. They don't have to pay for content. We
Mm,
really, our North Star is, how do we support these individuals? Because we recognize the importance of what they're doing, the work that they're doing to keep, these communities that they serve healthy. And so we want to provide them with everything that they need and the tools that they need to thrive in this industry as a health and fitness professional.
got it. And you'd mentioned that you're going out and you're going to be doing some fundraising. A lot of most investors want to see kind of the revenue projections and things like that. So how do you plan on kind of going from this freemium based model of great content into more of a paid based model, subscription model? I'm assuming something like that. How do you plan on kind of moving into that next phase?
Yeah, so you're asking how we make money. That's a great question. Everyone asks that question. We actually have two different streams of revenue. One is on our sponsorship media side. So
Okay.
obviously, I come from sponsorship media background, so we are generating revenue on that side. And essentially, it's people can tap into aligning with specific themes in our newsletter. They can come in and they can be a co-host for one of our curated events that we do for owners and operators or coaches. We just launched a new series called Career Lab by Coach 360 for coaches. So this is going to be our first foray into live event. So people can
Okay.
sponsor that to get in front of that specific community and the creators that will be presenting at that conference. We also do, third-party emails. We have a fully robust media program that brands can tap into. So that's one way we generate revenue. The other way that we'll generate revenue is that clubs and studios eventually will have a very low-cost subscription fee that's per location per month. And what we have found is that what they're paying right now on LinkedIn and some other competitors that are posting jobs is it's quite expensive to be able to post these jobs. Even one location and one particular job post is going to cost them hundreds, and they don't know, are they going to get a certified professional? Are they going to get, someone who's said, oh, I love yoga. Maybe I'll be a yoga instructor. And they don't understand there's like a whole process that you have to go through to be able to do
Yeah.
that. So with us, they know they're going on Marketplace by Coach 360. They're getting a certified health and fitness professional because their certification's already uploaded. They can see their resume, they can see video of this person, how they move, their personality. Are they a company culture fit? What do they like to do? We provide all of those things. So, ultimately, they're going to be able to find a more qualified, professional for their job posts.
So
And
you're basically kind of providing like a LinkedIn for fitness is kind of where you're hoping to go. Is that a little bit too much to
yeah, I
describe?
mean, we are a niche fitness staffing platform that, not only they can post the jobs, but we then take it a step further. And I will now go and tell the story on my media platform of why a coach would want to work for an Orange Theory Fitness or for a Lifetime
Sure.
or for a Burn Boot Camp. Because, in the storytelling piece, I'm able to say, well, hey, here are the reasons. You can make six figures. They invest in your growth and development. You get full benefits after, X amount of hours per week. You're able to tell that story. And then I, as a coach, can then go in and look and say, oh, this is going to be a great fit for me, or this might not be such a great fit. So ultimately, we're aligning professionals with a better fit in terms of, how they choose to go forth with their career.
Got it. And so you can basically go in, you can create a profile of yourself, you can upload videos and pictures of who you are, your resume, your experience, and then an employer like Hotworks or Orange Theory can come in and do a quick search in their areas. A new franchisee comes on board, and they can go and find those individuals.
Exactly that. Yeah.
That's very cool. Um, what types of coaching content are you starting to kind of roll out as part of this? I would assume a lot of most of the franchises, I would assume, have their own, coaching programs that they provide to their employees. So are you supplementing that with something separate? Are you working with them? Are you still kind of, playing around with different ideas?
Yeah, so our content kind of falls into five or six different buckets every single week. So fitness is always one. That's kind of the bread and butter right now. We also do health and longevity and or nutrition in every single issue. Business of coaching is another big one because again, back to what I was saying originally, like there's just not enough business. Training in the certifications that exist. They're starting to add them on as things that people can take later on, but we need more business training, and that comes actually from people who are on the front lines of coaching businesses. So we pull in a lot of
Sure.
subject matter experts to speak to those pieces. We also talk about technology and innovation. So this can be really intimidating to a lot of health and fitness coaches because a lot of them don't know how to use AI to actually like move the needle on their business. AI is our friend. And so we try to talk about that because AI is our friend. AI is never going to replace the personal trainer or the coach. AI is only going to enhance our business practices and make us more efficient. So we talk about that a lot, like what types of innovations are out there. And that can also, kind of span over to how are we bridging health the world of wellness and biotech. How are those worlds coming together? We talk about that a
Yeah.
lot as well. The last segment that we always include is always club and studio spotlight. So that's where we spotlight a lot of the clubs and studios who are posting jobs. So, we have Monarch, we have Fit Stop. So we'll talk about all of these clubs and studios, and then of course drive the coaches who are reading back in to figure out what locations are hiring and learn more about that organization, see if it's a good fit. So
Yeah.
that's the type of content that we talk about. Where you're going to see a lot of the business content is in our Career Lab series. We roll out virtually on June 17th, available on
Oh, wow.
demand after. And then we roll out our live inaugural one-day summit in conjunction with the Fit Expo August Anaheim. That's on August 1st. So all of that content that you're going to see is all geared towards the business of coaching. We're bringing in the experts. They've built incredible businesses. How did they do it, right? So that's what they're going to be speaking to, whether it's on a panel about, really identifying your industry niche and, how to play off of that and build your brand around that to attract the right types of clients. Or, whether it's an inspirational talk from Todd Durkin, who's talking about the 10 great traits of being a great coach.
Mm.
We are bringing in all of the experts to, really give that coach that's, 5 years or newer to the industry a great chance at building a thriving career.
And this is going to be a Coach 360, your inaugural event that you're going to be doing going forward. This is your event?
Yeah, this is our new brand and our new event. So we're really
Wow.
excited about this because ultimately, it really addresses the biggest issue that we see coaches facing is just the business side of fitness and health and being a professional in this industry and how to really grow your career, whether you're a hybrid professional and you work within a brick and mortar location and you have your own side business that you do, or if you're strictly you're saying, hey, you know what, I'm ready to kind of build my own entrepreneurial venture and I have a macro accounting or I address women's health. How do you do that, right? So
Mm.
we're going to talk to them about all the different things that you need in your toolbox in terms of marketing to the right people and, really, kind of creating a digital presence because if you don't have a digital presence, do you really exist anymore? Um,
Yeah.
so, how to create that digital presence that's really going to move the needle to, drive your business initiatives.
What is the event called?
It's called Career Lab by Coach
Career Lab.
360.
Okay. Got it. So Career Lab by Coach 360, Virtual Summit and Job Fair, Career Lab live from Fit Expo. Is that the one that you're talking about?
Yep, that's our two-part series. So we got a virtual and we got a live
Amazing.
event. Yeah, we have some just killer talent, coming
Yeah.
into both. Super excited about the employer panel that's going to take place at the virtual event with Afonda Sproles, Nicole Petito from PVolve, Khalid El Masri from Planet Fitness. So, we really are, kind of bringing in the experts to say, hey, coaches, if you want to work here, here's how to be a five-star applicant. And then coaches who are doing independent businesses, here's how you do it. So, that's really the goal there is, connection, inspiration, and career growth.
That's amazing. This is awesome. I will take a deeper look into this, and we'll definitely need to talk for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, let's kind of switch gears and talk a little bit about kind of your approach to health and wellness. I I have kind of my daily regime of what I do. I do sauna and cold plunge at night, contrast therapy. I work out and do mostly strength training, for 4 days a week. What is something, what is kind of your methodology around, what is a healthy wellness program versus one? Because I think a lot of people, still think that just, getting on a Peloton bike and riding for 45 minutes is good. By the way, of course it's good. It's very good for you. It's great for your heart, but strength training, as we talked about, and I do a lot of that as well, that is the best way to maintain. I'm 51. I'd like to stay fit and be able to flex my muscles when I'm 75. If I just did the Peloton, I would probably not be able to do that by the time I turn 75. So
Sure.
tell me your vision around or your methodology around health and wellness. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's shifted a lot, especially as I've moved into my 40s. And, just these different life stages. To your point, I used to just jump on cardio and kind of zone out and, really not be focused on what I'm doing, not be mindful. And now, in my 40s, this is really my time, like when I get to work out and do, my health and wellness routine, that is my pretty much my only time to myself during
Yeah.
the day. I mean, between having three kids and, just running a household and being an entrepreneur, there's not a lot of time. So structure is very important to me. I get up every single morning. So my own personal routine is this. I get up every
Okay.
single morning and I start the coffee, key. Um,
Coffee
and
is absolutely key.
I've
100%.
added I've added hydration because I heard you really need to be, drinking your water first, but within 30 minutes of waking up. So hydrate. I do my 10 minutes of meditation every single morning. I have to do a gratitude practice and I have to do some positive affirmations because quite frankly, my life is a total shit show right now. And I need, I'm going 100 miles an hour and I need, those positive affirmations so I can get in the right mindset and the structure feels very, very good to me because if you haven't noticed, I'm a little type A. Um,
You sound like you're in a sobriety program already. So this is
uh,
perfect.
I'm in my own sobriety program, right? But yeah, so we do,
Sobriety
I
and
do,
Wellness by Kathleen Ferguson.
But yeah, I do my meditation, and I always start my day with 20 minutes of movement cardio. So
What time do you get up in the morning?
usually around 4:30 or 5.
That's why I get up around like 5:20, 5:30.
That feels good to me. Yeah, the early mornings. And then I do
What's
my, oh, sorry, go ahead.
what's the first thing that you do when you first open your eyes? I used to, grab my phone and look at, email or whatever. I don't do that now. I count back from 5. I get up, I go brush my teeth, I drink, a couple of cups of water, and then I have my coffee. What do you do that's kind of your go-to when you first open your eyes?
I'm a little ashamed to say this, but yeah, I do grab my phone. It's not good, but
Gotta
I,
get that dopamine fix, right?
you know what though? I know it's just like I'm checking emails because I'm a two-man show. Plus, we have an editor in chief, so we're doing so much right now, and it's just it never stops. I'm grateful and I love what I do, but it doesn't stop. And I do need to be better about that. Like I just need to be digital, for a few minutes when I get up. And I realize that. So that's something I'm probably going to work harder to, kind of bake into my morning routine. But
Yeah,
I do grab my phone. I touch the coffee button. I like to physically get up so I can move out of my bed to turn it on myself. Otherwise, it might not get turned on. But yeah, the meditation's big. And then I do, 10 things for work. And then I do my 20 minutes of cardio. Then I move into my strength training. So the strength training I do 6 days a week. To your point, super important for longevity. We need this in order to move better when we're older. In terms of our own functional fitness, we have to have it. Bone health, joint health, all of the things. And to me, I believe that strength training is truly the fountain of youth. And
I agree.
it's really important for everybody to integrate it in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's just 10, 20 minutes, just, lift up some heavier weights than what you would normally pick up, and just give it 10 to 20 minutes, and you will end up building it up, more and more, as the weeks go on. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much my health and wellness routine. I would love to have some red light therapy. That's my dream, is to have my own. I would love to have sauna. I don't have that yet, but like when I go in an infrared sauna, I feel like I never feel better. Same with the red light. My gym did just get a red light booth that I can stand in, so that's pretty cool. Haven't got into the cold plunge. I hate to say, I I shouldn't be saying that. I know that I need it, and everyone swears by cold plunge, but I am the biggest
Women
one.
are different from men when it comes to cold plunge. Kathleen, I've been doing this now for a couple years. Obviously, I have my wellness company, Cold Bear Plunge. A lot of women ask me, do we need to do? A lot of men it's like almost like an ego thing. I don't really
Yeah.
give a shit in terms of the temperature, but men can do colder temperatures. Men can do temperatures for longer amounts of time. It's actually counterproductive for women. Women don't need to do as low temperatures as men, or frankly for as much time. The
Oh,
health benefits of doing cold plunging at like 49, 50 degrees for a woman is the same health benefits as of a man doing it at 38, 39. We're just completely different, men to women. I do something wellness wise every single day, whether it's work. Some days I'm so fucking crazy I just can't. I can't work out. Like yesterday, I was doing a bunch of things. I was getting ready for I was getting ready for a couple of work things. I have the podcast. Um, I have the wellness business. So I do something, right? So yesterday I did a little bit I always walk. I always do, I always walk somewhere. I always kind of stay active, but I also do, my wellness routine every single night where I do, health and cold therapy.
yeah. I like that routine. Yeah, being able to do, take care of yourself, whether it's a sauna in the evening. I think that's just such a great way to close out your day.
I think folks get so caught up in life that they just get so hung up on that job, that income, that corporate role, and between that and balancing a family and putting food on the table and making breakfast, lunch, and dinner and just everything, like our health and wellness often takes a back seat to our lives. And I constantly tell folks, you have to stay active. You have to keep well, and it doesn't matter whether it's meditation or breathing or drinking water. Those things are critical to longevity. you know?
Yeah, agreed, 100%. You're absolutely right. I do think that wellness and fitness does take the back seat a lot of times. I find, especially with like a lot of my friends who are moms, and who are working, it is really difficult to balance it all. Especially since a lot of these women are running the households as well, and it's easy to just say, all right, well, I'll just skip the 10 minutes of meditation today, or I'll skip my workout. I'll get to it later. A lot of times when you put these things off too for later, they never happen. Is what I found. So a lot of the morning routine is for that reason, because I know if I don't do that workout in the morning, it's probably not going to happen.
I think it's just like scheduling a meeting, right? I think I personally, I have to actually put it on my schedule. I have to
Yeah,
actually say, okay, this particular time of the day, I'm going to actually go to the gym or I'm going to go do something. I know at night that my daily routine is, some type of, heat and cold, or sometimes just heat. You have to remind yourself constantly that you have to take that time. I think folks, in the pace and the rapid speed of how life is running these days, I mean, time is flying. But if you
yeah.
can't actually take the time for yourself to actually do those things, how do you expect to show up as the best version of yourself for others?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't show up as the best version of yourself for others.
So, okay, so you start with meditation. You drink water. You get your coffee. You do a little bit of some aerobic exercise, which obviously is really good in the morning because it allows you to basically get your metabolism working for the entire
Hmm.
day. And then you go and do strength training. Tell me a little bit about kind of your daily diet regime, in terms of not diet regime, in terms of your daily eating habits, patterns, things like that. Are you kind of a gal that has a big breakfast and then a big lunch? I'm personally like more of like a grazer type of guy, where I have like little things throughout the day. What's your approach to eating, and what are some areas that you talk to folks about in terms of wellness?
Yeah, I mean, my own kind of personal nutrition is that I try to kind of count my macros. I have a pretty good idea of what those macros are. I like to eat my weight in protein, because I am lifting a lot. So, protein is always kind of the first thing um, that I go for. And again, this is what works for me. Obviously, I'm not a nutritionist, or, I'm not within scope of practice to be giving anyone nutritional recommendations.
Sure,
But
I'm not a
um,
doctor either, folks.
I find that for me, like just consuming, protein first is extremely important. So, I typically will eat that, within an hour of my strength training. Um, Occasionally, and like what I'm in right now is I like to do a little intermittent fasting,
Hmm.
and just and again, this is for like more of like kind of getting rid of brain fog, and some mental clarity. It really actually helps me significantly. So every few weeks I'll kind of cycle that in, where I'll just do like a window of fasting, like 11 to 7, or a window of eating, I mean 11 to 7, and then I'll fast. But for the most part, I just try and hit my protein macros. I find that when I'm lifting the way that I'm lifting, I need to eat more, not less. I think a lot of women think that they need to be eating less calories. If you're, working
Such a
out,
misnomer.
and yes, if you want to build muscle, you need to eat, people. I won't
Yes.
give you exact macronutrients on that, but if you're lifting, you need to be eating, and that's super important. So, again, like I think we talked about this a little earlier before we jumped on and hit record, but I find that it's okay to have a treat every now and then. I count macros, but I'm not like religious by it by any means. I just try and stick within. Yes, I try to eat healthy, 80% of the time, and then allocate maybe the other 20% for treats that I really want.
Sure. Yeah, actually, I'm pretty bad at that, admittingly, especially at night. Ugh, anyways, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses, I guess. But um, so in terms of like protein, I think that's a really important piece, especially like after you do a workout. By the way, like when I do a workout, I find that I get the same benefits of like doing a cross type weight hit workout in like 25-30 minutes, and get the same benefits of that. Then like I see people that go into gyms for hours. I don't have hours. I mean, I'm sure you
Right.
probably don't have hours either. Like I get in and I have my thing, and I um and I get the same benefits from spending all that time. Are you a, what do you usually do? Do you kind of vary it, by, individual body region, or
Yeah.
do you just kind of do the overall, CrossFit or cross strength, cross body, all, pretty much every workout that you do?
Yeah, I'll hit different areas or like I'll mix it up and do like a push pull day. But I'm usually out within an hour. So I used to be one of those people that I'd be like, okay, I got to do an hour of cardio and then I've got to do an hour of lifting. And I find that like you can, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when you're time crunched. It's like for me, if I can just, lift a little bit heavier weights, then I don't need to have as long of a set. My set's a lot shorter. I can, do 4 to 6 reps, with heavier weights as opposed to doing, 10 to 12. So I think, a lot of women too, in particular, are afraid to pick up the heavy weights. And, we shouldn't be afraid of them. We should really embrace them. Because
Hmm.
that is truly the way that you not only, increase your longevity, but you also can change the shape of your body by, picking up those heavier weights.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm sure we could probably talk for hours about kind of the different techniques and everything else. I want to switch gears and kind of, finish things up by talking a little bit about your personal thoughts around wellness and mental health, and, um, what you talk to, both your sponsors and folks in the world. I've had a lot of folks on the podcast where we've oftentimes had, pretty open conversations about, and I've been very vocal about this. I feel like corporations need to do more around mental health. Of course, they have, employee assistance programs or EAPs, and they have all those different mechanisms, healthcare and things like that to help if somebody gets cancer or diabetes or whatever. But I feel like there's this kind of break in terms of like how they help employees deal with mental health, and especially around struggles with sobriety and addiction, because it's just so rampant in the workplace. Like it affects about 70% of companies, costing companies upwards of, in the US alone, like, $300 billion a year. It's crazy.
Hmm.
So I'm curious your thoughts around kind of mental health and wellness, and your, if you don't have a perspective on it, I totally understand. But do you feel like it's an active conversation, or do you still feel like it's something, we're in 2025, that could be talked about more and there could be more solutions around it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always can be talked about more. We actually work pretty closely with the Mental Health Well-Being Association, and we work with them a lot on content surrounding, just the connection between mental health and physical exercise, so fitness. And they have released a certification for fitness professionals to understand aspects of mental health, how they affect fitness, and how they can leverage their fitness skills to help clients who are dealing with specific areas of mental health. So I think from that perspective, that was something I didn't see, 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. So I think, there's a lot of progress being made there. I think from
Hmm.
like the corporation side, just to touch on that, I think there's such a stigma attached to mental health still, and also, sobriety and, just people's addictions with substances. I think, you know, not that people need to, normalize the conversation surrounding that so that people don't feel afraid to ask for help. It's a very prevalent issue, and I think, once that stigma is removed, and people can begin talking about this without the fear of being retaliated against by, the organization that they work for asking for help, from services that are covered, through their benefits. I think, there can be more progress to be made there. But I think people who are struggling with mental health, sobriety, substance abuse, addiction, all of those things, probably, I mean, I think that they feel shame in certain aspects to ask for help because of that stigma attached to it. And they shouldn't feel shame because much of it is a disease, and
It's a
that should
disease of the
be
brain. It's a
it
disease
should.
of the brain. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to speak because I'm not an expert in that area.
Yeah,
You would know, more about that than I would, but I will say that like I know a lot of people who struggle with it. I have
sure.
family members that struggle with it, and there is shame attached to it, and there shouldn't be shame when you need to be asking for help for this, just as you would ask for help from, other diseases, right?
Yeah, and it's ironic, right? Because, especially in corporate, there's all these expectations to, deliver and, show up for the best for your employees, your team, and your customers. And then they're like, oh, let's go and drink a bunch of wine and have these huge dinners. And
Yeah,
it's crazy to me. I think the stigma piece is really well said. And, I can speak personally from experience that I've had leaders that I've worked for and with that have come to me and just said like, hey, how do I deal with this? I've had also leaders that have unfortunately regressed, and they kind of, they go the opposite direction because they don't know how to handle it, and they don't know what they haven't received the proper training um, and guidance from their HR organizations on like how to deal with this stuff.
yeah,
And I think that's solely. I think it's partly the responsibility of the company to be able to provide those resources to their leaders, to their employees on like what to do when somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I need help." But I
right.
also think it's creating a culture that says like, "Look, if you do need help, like ask for help. It's okay." Like, because if you can help an employee get well, that employee is totally dedicated to you. Like they're gonna be they're going to be in it for the long haul because they know that you care about them. People leave companies because they don't feel like they're being taken care of. They don't feel like they're being recognized, or they don't feel like they're getting the proper support. I mean, it's a pretty simple. You'd think it would be much more simple than it actually is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think long story short on that is just that I am seeing progress, at least on the educational side of things. But I think that, corporations in terms of embracing individuals who struggle with these diseases have a longer way to go.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm actually talking with a couple of folks, here in Oregon about forming some resources that we can help corporations here in Oregon and possibly beyond, provide them with the right services and assistance and guidance. And who knows where this podcast is going to lead me. I started this just because I wanted to create a positive message and pay it forward and help people. If there's just one person that I can help from this podcast, or you can help from this podcast, that's huge. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing where all this goes. Um, we're almost at time, Kathleen. I just want to say it's so nice to meet you, and it's so great to now know you. I feel like we're going to be friends for a very long time.
we will.
I would obviously, I would love to figure out how to get more deeply involved with your organization. I think it's amazing what you are doing, and I can't wait to hear more. And I would love to have you come back and give us an update in the future.
That would be wonderful, and I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited about what you're building, and I'm excited to continue to watch how this grows.
Thank you so much. Any parting thoughts before we go ahead and sign off, Kathleen? How can they find you? How can they reach you?
Yeah. So I'm pretty accessible. I love connecting with people. Again, it's just that's why this industry means so much to me. Is I want the community to reach out, and I love having conversations with them. So email me directly, Kathleen at coach360news.com. Subscribe to the newsletter, coach360news.com. And feel free to sign up for our free virtual summit, which is located on that page. If you're looking for a job in fitness, it's coach360marketplace.com, and you can search 1,500 club and studio locations across the US. So excited to connect.
1,500. That's awesome.
Yeah, and all of our social handles are at Coach 360 News, so pretty easy to find us. And yeah, we look forward to, working with individuals that share in our vision to, uplift and support health and fitness professionals to, ultimately lead us to a healthier planet.
Oh, that's awesome. Well said. And Kathleen, thank you so much for joining. It's an honor to meet you, and it's an honor to know you. Just to let everybody know, the Sober Cold Bear podcast is not a place to get sober with. There are resources out there and resources available to you, but it really starts by the simple words, "I need help." And that's kind of where everybody starts when they start their sobriety and recovery road, or journey, I should say. It's also something that you can't do alone. So if you need help, ask for help, go to a loved one, reach out to me, talk to your best friend, go to somebody that you trust and have a conversation. It is something that is hard to do, but once you actually realize what you can become beyond the walls of addiction, it's pretty unbelievable. I can speak from experience, and I'm certainly not an expert in it, but I certainly understand kind of what it is to go through this stuff. So thank you again, everybody, for listening in. We're going to go ahead and wrap up, and thanks again for joining the Sober Cold Bear podcast. And Kathleen, once again, you are fantastic. Thank you so much. And we're going to go ahead and say bye-bye.
And thank you so much.
Sometimes I feel like I want to fly without no wings. I elevate inside my mind, and sometimes